Welcome back. The only difference between companies that thrive in disruption and companies that flounder around are those that decide that resilience is something that they want to take seriously. It's something they want to hoist aboard. And guess what? It's really simple. It's not a complex ideology. It doesn't require framework spreadsheets and a whole bunch of downloadable AI driven programs that are going to integrate all of these things across your business. No. True resilience, true understanding of the business in which you created and operate, and your ability to set that up to be able to navigate disruptions as they occur beyond your capability is simple and easy. And today we're going to walk you through the 6 ideas that support it, the 4 risk domains that structure real and simple resilience planning by creating an operational resilience system within your small and medium enterprise. So sit back, grab yourself your favorite beverage. Let's get at it. Risk isn't random. Blindness is the only factor that you can control. Most of us, when we think about successful resilience, understand it's grounded in the theory of the Stoics. And that means we understand that we control so very little of the environment in which we operate. If you think of a hula hoop, we all know what a hula hoop is. Put it on the ground. Imagine in your head the size of a hula hoop. And then take a tiny marble and set it in the middle of that hula hoop. That's exactly how much of the world in which your business operates that you control and influence. Accepting and understanding that is the key to building resilience because you can't control the world around you, which means getting emotionally upset, psychologically upset, and spending forever banging on a keyboard arguing about the world around you is pointless. It doesn't help you, and it's wasting a very finite amount of time that you have available to build and protect your business. You cannot control the environment around your business. What you do have the absolute control over is how you choose to respond to events and how you choose to prepare for what likely and unlikely things could happen to your business. The old joke is gravity doesn't negotiate, right? It is what it is, whether you like it or not. Political economic decisions are going to be made by actors at all different levels of government and inside larger business regulatory environments. You can influence it, you can ask, you can submit, but in the end, those decisions are not yours. The only decision you do have as a small and medium business owner is to figure out what you're going to do. This is the environment in which I operate. How am I going to be successful? How am I going to protect the revenue I have, spur growth, and add additional revenue? How am I going to build the professional networks? How am I going to maintain customer confidence? How am I going to understand the world and the business structure that I've created over time? And how do I take all of that and leverage it to position my company as a differentiator, one that will be successful when the shizzy hits the fizzy and the world goes pear-shaped, one where we know what we intend to do when X or Y system within our business no longer becomes available. Because what we don't do is we don't spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about what could happen to the business. We worry about what we do when a system within our business no longer works. It's a very critical and different frame that if you truly want to understand resilience and you truly want to adopt resilience, you stop trying to control the world around you. You completely understand the world that you've created, all of your structures and systems within your business. Then you examine them. Then you look for single points of failure, and then you build resilience within your system. So whatever does happen to your company, and you will be disrupted at some time or another, you've thought through the process. So what you're doing is enacting what you've already walked through. You've built the culture within your corporation. You've built responsibility within your teams, and everybody is ready to go. When, as Mike Tyson says, we all get punched upside the head. That is the key to resilience. Understanding that you control so very little and then spending the time controlling on what you can do, how you react, and how you build your company for success. Now, here at Mastering Risk and Preparedness Labs Incorporated, we have simplified the risk landscape. Risk management has its own ISO of 33,000. There are many other ISOs in related and adjacent disciplines like business continuity, supply chain, resilience, emergency management. They all have their own, to some degree, share some common nomenclature, some common ideology and structural frameworks, but they all have their own nuances and differences. But in reality, as a small and medium business owner, or just a solo entrepreneur who's starting off, has 3 customers and $5,000 annual total revenue, you exist within a business landscape. Understanding that and simplifying risk to fit in what you do is our belief is the key to success. If I, as an expert in risk management, have to come and start explaining a whole new list of jargon, a whole new nomenclature of terms, and a whole bunch of spreadsheets and everything, hey, listen, I'm going to jam this framework down your throat as a business owner because this is how you learn risk management, then I'm failing. So we've simplified it to 4 domains. Risk exists, full stop, in your business in 4 domains. And you know them all. Cyber domain. If you're going to operate on the internet, you have cyber risk. Operations. That's your supply chain and everything. You make or you've chosen to make or buy something, you provide a good or service to a client. All the processes involved in that, that's your operations. They have risk. Strategic risk. You exist within a broader ecosystem. You've chosen a business, a certain business model. You're governed by certain regulatory frameworks. You have a certain number of competitors that are reasonably adjacent or close to your business operations. Think of it as a sandbox. You're playing in a sandbox and there's risk in that sandbox and you don't control it, but you need to understand it. And the last one is reputational risk. We've heard of cancel culture. It's real. We may or may not agree with it. It doesn't matter, but it has come for and affected a number of our competitors and even some of our close peers. So understanding your reputation risk, what that looks like on the internet, and what is within your capability to manage that is key. So we're going to talk about the 4 risk domains. And the first one we're going to start with is cyber, because it quite literally is the one that gets the majority of speaking time online, the majority of pundits, and the majority of LinkedIn posts are about the latest cyber thing. How do you combat this? How do you keep up with it? I'm a solo entrepreneur, a small, medium business owner. I'm not a cyber expert, but I do understand that I exist in the cyber world. And these are lessons that I've learned and that experts will tell you are incredibly helpful. And there's not a lot that you need to do, and most of this is free. And the idea within the cyber domain is you have a number of, you sell online, you receive money electronically, you fulfill online, you have customer relations online. All of these systems that you use are exposed. So what are some things that you can do right now today within your small business to lower your supply chain risk? Well, the first one is multi-factor authentication. It's available through SMS text. It's available through those verification apps through Microsoft and other verification, through, if you're an Apple user, through some type of passkey using a biometric identification, a Face ID or a fingerprint, something that adds a different authentication that if your password was solved, was compromised and somebody had access to it, there's another step required that is not necessarily as easy to acquire or seize. Not that it's zero. And remember, throughout all of these discussions, we have to remember we cannot reduce risk to zero. It's impossible. What we're doing is mitigating everything. So the first thing is your mandatory multi-factor authentication across your business. Just make it mandatory. Everybody who has access to the inside of your system must use MFA, full stop. The second one is offline backups. Offline backups, I call them air gapped. And what that means is you have a drive. Now, a lot of us on our computers have daily backup drives. We have hard drives. I use an iMac. It does the time machine and backs up regularly. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to a regular backup that is currently not connected to the internet, which means it's not accessible for hacking. A lot of companies, what they do is they'll simply take a a terabyte, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte drive, whatever it may be, and on a regular basis, usually weekly, put it in your calendar on a Monday or Friday, and you simply back it up. You back up all of your systems, all of your data, and then you keep it in a separate location. If you run it out of a home office, you can't keep it in your home because if you lose your home, you lose everything. So you put it in a safety deposit box, you put it in a friend's home, but it's not connected to the internet, right? It is simply existing so that if you're hacked, if you lose access to all of your systems, and for whatever reason your computer and your data has gone bye-bye, it's just literally not available to you, you have it saved and you can hook it up to a new machine with new passwords and restart. Is it simple? No. Is it simple? Yes. Is it discomfortable? Yeah, absolutely. Some people don't like adding another process, etc. But it's a simple thing that you can do as a small and medium business owner is get that done. The next one is patches and software updated. Often one of the easiest vectors of access or a threat vector, depending on how you want to look at it, for a cyber criminal is, or any nefarious actor, is un, un, not uploaded patches is the correct word for it. So patches are when you get security updates. Now you get it all the time for your Microsoft machine, you get it for your Windows, etc. But it's also for your home security device. It's for any device or any software that you use throughout your business. So think of all of the physical devices that are connected to the internet and think of all the physical devices connected to inside your business, but may not be connected to the internet, but are necessary. And then think of all of your software programs that you use for your business. Make sure those patches and automatic are automatically updated because as corporations find access points or where actors have been able to successfully navigate into a software, they'll set out a patch update to stop that from happening. Keep it automatically patch update. Again, one of the easiest ways for a nefarious actor into your business is an old unpatched system. So keep your patches up to date. Very good. The next one is insurance. Now, proper cyber insurance that not only pays ransomware and pays off that, but covers all of your losses can be tens of thousands of dollars a year, if not north of six figures, depending on your business. So having full coverage for cyber insurance is often cost prohibitive for most small and medium businesses. But what you can do is investigate downtime. So there are different revenue product or different insurance products that protect revenue. So if you're down for 7 days and your average revenue is $1,000 per day, can you buy insurance to cover that at a lower premium? Can you buy key person insurance? And this is actually more common than most people realize, is that within various different organizations, you can buy that. You can jump in and say, hey, I want to buy insurance to cover my operations manager or my CEO. If my CEO gets sick for a month, I need to pay a temporary CEO to come in. How much does that cost? All of these things are available. So as we go through these risk domains and you think about things that are single points of failure and things that cause you much consternation and difficulty, you can sit back and say, hey, can I buy these insurance? The overall thing with cyber insurance is having proper cyber hygiene. That means people don't share passwords, they don't click on links, and again, they don't use QR codes. And I know people disagree with me on this point periodically, and that's perfectly fine. We don't use QR codes, full stop. We don't. Because if they're public and they're on an outside source or something, I've been I've been hacked and lost a credit card because I went up to one of those local parking signs and it said QR, scan the QR code and download, put in your information and pay for your parking. Not a problem. I did that, and within 15 minutes, somebody had taken that credit card information and booked a trip to Europe. Now, obviously, I jumped in, I saw the notification, I got it stopped, but that's because he used an outdoor. Now, I use QR codes when I'm trying to, I'm on TV and I'm trying to get my TV updated to an app. Things that you trust, things that are coming through a trusted system on an app that you already use that has multi-factor authentication. But out in the public sphere, I would never, ever scan a QR code. The one number one thing that you can do that actually does cost a bit of money is have a managed service provider, an MSP. On average, they cost $150 to $200 per person in your company per month. But what that does is they manage all of those things that I spoke about and create a cyber defense platform for your company and manage your offsite recovery and regularly test restarting your business off of the backups. If you can afford a couple $100 per person per month that's in your company, a managed service provider is a key enabler. They are a differentiator and they will matter. A lot of things that we talked about here are fabulous. Go ahead and do those if you can't afford a managed service provider. It's all about cyber hygiene and it's culture, and it's a leadership driven. Online, when you operate, how you operate as a leader is infectious. Make sure that that's an example. Everything that you do online is exactly what you want your team members to do. Because if it's good for you, it's good for the company and it's good for them. Make the standard, be absolutely vicious about enforcing it, and protect your cyber assets. Because cyber, it's the number one growing pain point in all of business. Second one we're talking about is operational risk. It's the hidden fragility in your day-to-day operations. Think about one piece of machinery goes down and needs a part from Taiwan. How long are you willing to wait? One key individual who understands all of this goes down. One key supplier that provides an essential component to your business and your ongoing goods operations no longer becomes available. And remember, when we think about this, this again is back to our discussion about Stoic philosophy. We're not worried about why the supplier can't deliver. We're worried that the supplier can't deliver. So we only have one situation when we build an operational resilience system within our corporation is we think about, okay, I have 5 suppliers, which is perfectly fine. I have one supplier I know very well. That's perfectly fine. But what I have is a very well thought out idea of what am I going to do when I come in Monday morning and my main supplier is not available. Pick a reason, pick a frame of time. What am I going to do? Because if you're going to leave that decision making to the day when the incident happens, there could be any number of other compounding things happening at the same time. There could be other variables that you're unaware of. And now you're not only losing time because your supplier's down, you're losing time because you're trying to figure out what to do because your supplier's down, which just compounds the loss that's already occurring. So the key is think about timelines. Think about all of your different processes. And the key that we always say with any small and medium business owner is understanding the business you built. Often we have entrepreneurs who will build pieces of a structure, one component at a time. They'll add this function, they'll add this software, they'll add this capability, they'll add this website. As they grow or new ideas and novel innovations come up, they fit into the business and they put them together and they add something new and something valuable. But rarely what business owners do is pause and go to the whiteboard and sit down and draw out their entire business and all of the key elements that are involved in their business and look at it as a system. While each individual piece may make sense on its own, how well do they work together? What dependencies do they create? And based upon those dependencies, do I, as a business owner, see any single points of failure that are emerging? Is there something by default of how I've created the company that has manufactured a weakness in my supply chain and my operations that I may not have seen normally, I may not have considered, and now I see it because I paused and I took the time to have a view, have a look at my end-to-end operations and assess it, right? If we remember that in supply chain, that is the key. Think about redundancy. The other option you have in supply chain and operations risk is if I have one primary contractor that is responsible for delivering a key element that I must have, is there an option to have a second? Can I split the contract between two contractors? It doesn't have to be 50-50. It can be 80-20. I've just introduced a new player. They can deliver something of the same quality. I've built a relationship with them. And now I've built a bit of redundancy in the unlikely but painful event that my primary contractor is no longer available. I now have the ability to, as we would say in the Army, swing fire or pivot over to this redundant contractor to at least receive some additional supply, to receive some level of additional support. I think that's incredible and important in your business. So when you think about operations, understand, look for single points of failure, and think about redundancy. What could happen if I have 7 steps in my business operations from start to delivery, from the start of the manufacture of the purchase process to the end state when I deliver to my customer? All those in, there's 7 processes. Simply ask yourself, what's involved in each process and what if they're not available? What does that world look like and how might I think about adding it? And am I comfortable with that, or is it something I need to investigate a little more, potentially add some redundancy, maybe even a bit of insurance or something along the lines to give me that little bit of risk mitigation that calms those nerves a little bit more and makes me a little bit more resilient in my operations. Your third one is strategic risk. Remember, the macro environment in which we're operating is changing at a pace we haven't seen in a long time. Political and economic decision makers of all stripes and in many nations and post and in multinational organizations are changing policies and regulatory frameworks that have specific and direct impact on how you've set up your business to do. Understanding that environment is the first stage and key. Who are the players? Who are the actors within this environment where I live? Think of it in 3 frames. Number one is a regulatory framework that governs your business. If you're a dry cleaner, you have a lot of chemical regulations. If you're an automotive manufacturer, you have certain warranty requirements and regulatory things that are set by corporations, not by government. So if you're going to repair a Ford and stay within the warranty, this is how it has to happen. Think about you have your government, you have your regulatory environment, and those can set all of those up. So governments or businesses or associations set a set of rules of which you have to follow. Think about your competitors. Who else is in this space and what's the emerging threat? Are there new entrants? Is your market at one where new entrants are likely? What's the potential of somebody from the other side of the globe copying your good that you make and selling it for a 40% below your value on the internet across with a great marketing campaign that is going to hit you upside the head? Think about the regulatory, think about your competitors' environment, and then think about the economic and policy environment in which you operate. Where are you leaning? And I'll give you a prime example with that. My company, Preparedness Labs Incorporated, delivers services across the globe to many countries around the world. I have to abide by the regulatory frameworks that are set up in those countries. So, for example, the European Union has established a number of new rules about the use of artificial intelligence and generation in services or goods that are provided. If I sell to the EU or I'm available in the EU, I have to follow their regulations. It has nothing to do with whether I agree with it or not. It's that I need to be aware of these foreign regulatory environments if I want to operate in their space. So the sandbox is actually the globe. Your piece you may just operate in the United States of America, or like me, you may just operate in Canada or your own country. But if you sell digitally, you sell to the world and you're fixed by a number of those regulatory environments. Because I can be fined by the European Union. Now, I'm in Canada. I'm not sure how they'd enforce it other than shutting down my website in the European Union. But that's a whole bunch of regulatory pain I don't think that you want to know. War game your world. And wargaming is not meaning playing little Axis and Allies with your business. It means look at your business on the 1 to 5 year plan. Now, I know some scholars or some business people will tell you anything past a 3 year plan is pointless. 1 to 5 year plans are fine. But if you think about your 1 year plan and you think strategically about your company, where do you want your company to be in a year? First, you better be able to answer that question. Otherwise, you've got a whole different set of conversations to have. Where do you want your company to be in a year? And then think about those 3 areas that I talked about and what could possibly influence your plan to go there. And then I've got a strategy and a plan of where Preparedness Labs Incorporated is going to be in 1 year. That could be affected by local regulatory frameworks. It could be affected by competitors emerging. And it could be affected by policy actors that are well outside of my jurisdictional awareness. I have to pay attention to all of those. I have to think about what would happen if each one of those came into my business and changed the framework. And I use the dry cleaners all the time because I have a very good friend of mine who owns 4 dry cleaner locations. Big supporter of Preparedness Labs Incorporated. He understands that somebody comes in and change the environmental Canada or the provincial regulatory environment where he works about the managing and handling of chemicals, that changes a huge amount of what he has to do. And it can be pretty impactful. And so he spends a reasonable amount of time engaged with and stayed connected with the networks that make these policies. So when a corporation exists within the dry cleaning world and they're looking at updating the policy, often there'll be stakeholder engagement programs that will be put out by regulatory bodies, whether they're private sector or public sector governance bodies. He's engaged with the stakeholder, not just to have his opinion heard, because we all have our opinion heard, but to keep pace with what is going on. So if he goes into that stakeholder engagement for next year's policy update and he hears considerable noise directing towards, and it looks like the policymakers are thinking about heading in direction A, then he has to come back and have a look at his business operations and see, hey, if we go in a direction A, how does that affect my 1 year plan, my 3 year plan? How does that affect my business operations? So understanding the policy framework around your business, the actors, and how you remain engaged is boring to a lot of people. I get it, but strategic risk is real. You're really good at the game, but you don't control the rules. Somebody else does. And when they want to change those rules, they can materially change the bottom line of your business. So pay attention to your strategic risk. And the last one is reputational risk. We have all seen cancel culture. You can build a decade building a great reputation and have had some event cancel most of that in a period of 15 minutes online. Videos go viral. And I've used this all the time, but it's true. You could have one of your employees on a vacation down in the Caribbean doing something they shouldn't, filming it, and they get tagged on their Facebook profile, but underneath the Facebook name is your company. They're the director of operations for your company. They're down there. They did something really dumb. It was filmed. They got tagged. And all of a sudden, you get the, is this your company? Is this what you stand for? Do you believe this is appropriate behavior? Please tell us exactly what actions you're taking against people. And all of a sudden, on a Sunday morning, here you are hammering away on your phone, trying to defend your company's reputation from something that came flying out of left field. It could be a contaminated product. It could be a tone deaf response to a crisis. It could be a data breach that you didn't tell anybody about. And I learned a lot about reputational management from a very good fellow friend of mine, a fellow veteran, and she runs a company, Canada-wide, an international company on helping small and medium business owners be ready. It's about being prepared for when your reputation comes under damage. There's 2 ways. There's an offense and a defense. The offense is maintaining positive relationships with your client, which means, I'm sorry to say, you don't say boo about politics and economic decisions. You are political and ideologically neutral across the internet. I don't care what your personal political beliefs are. I don't care what your ideological framework is. I don't care about your faith and religion. None of that matters in your business. You are absolutely neutral because whether the European Union or any other company organization has a regulation saying your personal profile online is not your public profile, nobody cares about that because people will come after you. If I jump online and I say a leader is a hero or a zero, 40% of my potential customer base just gave me the middle finger. And people are that polarized in today's political and economic environment, you just stay neutral. I don't comment about politics. I don't comment about economics. I don't comment about ideology. I just stay away from it because you can't win. And there are trolls and communities of people who their entire raison d'etre is to go after people online who disagree with their political opinion or their ideological opinion. And if you stray into that, you may find yourself under attack by a bunch of people from a country on the other side of the world that have nothing better to do than to attack you and rip. They can go on your Yelp and you all of a sudden have 157 one-star reviews or negative reviews. It's happened to a lot of people. Your offense is to simply be neutral online and don't comment on anything. Your great defense, which turns into an offense, is have a prepared communication strategy for when a bad day happens. Because it's not if, it's when. When one of your products goes wrong, when somebody uses your product incorrectly and it may cause harm, or when somebody does something dumb in your company and it goes public, or you didn't decided not to tell people about a data breach and somebody found out afterwards, whatever it may be, there's a very clear communication strategy about how to position your company safely in the middle of a crisis, how to get out in front of it, what to say, what not to say, and there are experts in the field. This is where it's worth spending a little bit of money talking to a communications expert to have a look at what you do within your sandbox, what you may be exposed to, and what ideas and frameworks might be ready to go. So in the middle of a crisis, who gets to speak publicly on behalf of your company, when you're going to speak, and what are you going to say? These are crisis agnostic, and for the large part, it doesn't matter what's occurring. It's how you're going to position your company in the middle of chaos to defend its reputation, to protect its revenue, protect its long-term growth, and listen, to protect your employees' livelihood. Because if you get reputationally assassinated online as a company, it's going to be very hard to continually employ people. And there'll be innocent people who are going to have to be laid off or furloughed simply because of some action that you didn't think would come up and hit you upside the head. So reputational management, reputational risk is all about being on the offense consistently and having a fabulous defense ready to go if you need to engage. Reputational management, cancel culture is real, but you can stay ahead of the curve. So think about your 4 risk domains. Think about all of the things that we talked about in each one. And a lot of this, if not the vast majority of it, is free. It just takes some time and effort for you to think about how do you build resilience within your corporation. And remember that resilience is about building trust and maintaining confidence of your customers, that you not only are capable of delivering what you say you can, but you can do so during disruption. And that's the key, building and maintaining trust. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening to Mastering Risk. We're here every week, free of charge and across social media to bring ideas about resilience and how we can help your small and medium enterprise be successful, grow despite the chaos and the political and economic environment in which we operate. So thanks for joining us this week. Take care. Stay safe.